Hello, so I'm going to do like a quick little review on this Smith and Wesson knife at the moment. Now, this isn't going to be like one of those in-depth cutting test reviews and anything, but I quite like it so far. So weirdly, this doesn't seem to really have a proper like name. I think somewhere online you can get a big long name of you know, like the serial number type thing, but I guess it's a G10 handle knife with a load of other sort of serial numbers. But the reason I wanted to get this, there's the packaging, I can bin that now. The reason I wanted to get one of these is mostly just because they were cheap on Prepper Shop when they're having to unfortunately stop selling their knives. So a quick explanation, Weapon Collector did a good video on this, is they've come under pressure either from the government or like a lot of other sort of financial things like credit card companies and all that to stop selling knives, because in the UK obviously we have a knife crime problem, but that's very rarely committed with proper knives like these. The knife crime problem in the UK is basically sort of as cheap as possible knives and screwdrivers being used as like disposable murder weapons. So this is the knife itself. So as you can say, it says Smith and Wesson on there, so I can technically say I have a Smith and Wesson now, even though obviously it's a knife, not a gun. And it's got a full tang, as you can see, so it's pretty sturdy. So the closest knife to probably compare this to I've got is that British Army MOD knife, because if you look at them, they're pretty similar sizes. The MOD knife is a bit chunkier, but not by much. So they're basically designed to fit the same role, I imagine, sort of combat / utility knives for, you know, just hacking through wood or whatever else you want to do with them. So the MOD knife itself, as I said before, is very simple. Smith & Wesson's one's got a bit more to it, as in it's got a bit of serration on the back, which is obviously good if you want the serration, otherwise not really any point to it. There's no bottle opener or anything as far as I can see on here, but again, that's not a game breaker, but you know, some people would prefer that. So it says Smith & Wesson Homeland Security on the blade, don't know if that has anything to do with the name either. So, yeah, as you can see, it's a fairly bulky knife. When I bought this, because I didn't look too closely at the measurements, I actually thought it was going to be a lot smaller than this, but because they were doing their closing down sale, sadly, on Prepper Shop for the knives, it was very good value for money. I think it was like £40 or something, which is really cheap for a knife like this. What it also included, which I only just realised, is in the holster it came with, which is actually surprisingly nice. You've got a little molly strap on the back there if you want to, button that to a rig. Otherwise, it's got the little belt loop type thing, which is good. But what I didn't realise is inside this little pouch here, you have got a sharpening stone. So that's cool. I wasn't actually expecting it to include something like that, but yeah, it came with a little sharpening stone. So there's not loads I can say about this. As I said, this isn't going to be an in-depth review of it, because it's a knife, it's come plenty sharp, and they include the sharpening stone. Obviously, the purpose of these are basically combat knives / utility knives. The holster has got a bit of plastic in there, I don't know if you can see that, to stop the knife from cutting open the holster, which is pretty good, because again, some knives don't actually include that in holsters, so eventually they start cutting open the holster. But yeah, there you go. So I don't know if Prepper Shops still have any more of these in stock. As I said, I think it was only about £40 or so on their closing down sale. Other sites were selling these, I think, for closer to £100 when I had a look, but, sadly, as said, Prepper Shop are having to do this because they're basically being forced out of selling knives through no fault of their own, but because of, poor government legislation and everything else. So, as said, it's such a shame Prepper Shop have to stop selling stuff like this and at good prices, because obviously most people like me who buy these have no intention of stabbing people with them, they're just interesting knives, for most of their life, for me at least, they live in a drawer, not really doing much. But yes, what I would recommend is if you go on Prepper Shop website, have a look and see if there's still anything like this in stock for good prices. Because if they're getting rid of all their stock, you can probably find some very nice higher end sort of knives like this that are actually reasonably priced. Because they weren't expensive in the first place on Prepper Shop, and now they're doing obviously a closing down sale. So lots of the stuff is very, very affordably priced. So there you go. But as I said, it's still such a shame Prepper Shop have had to stop selling knives, because again, they weren't supplying them for people to do bad things with. It's just that, awful government legislation always does stuff like that.